Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. Marvel is officially back in theaters with Black Widow. In this video, I'm going to give you guys a spoiler-free review, also announcing the giveaway for this Black Widow Funko Pop at the end of the video. If you haven't already checked out my fresh first impressions video, I'll link it right up here in the card or in the description down below. In this video, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth with being spoiler-free, and then I'll be uploading a spoiler review tomorrow. So again, hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you don't miss that video. But without wasting any more time, let's go right into it, talking about Black Widow spoiler-free review, of course. But without wasting any more time, let's go right into it, starting off with the good of this movie. I thought the action of this movie was absolutely phenomenal. This might have had some of the best action in the entirety of the MCU. Top 5 action movies in the MCU that's ever been made so far, and I think it's comfortably in the top 5. I wouldn't even say top 3 though, but comfortably in the top 5. It really reminds me of the Winter Soldier action vibes, but that does honestly negatively impact the movie, which I'll get into later in this video. But I love the action. The first act's action in this movie might be some of the best action in any certain act of an MCU movie. It might be better than, I think, the second act of Winter Soldier. If you haven't already seen, I rewatched the Winter Soldier pretty recently, so I have a pretty good comparison. I did want to rewatch the Winter Soldier before Black Widow anyway, because I heard the movies were fairly similar. They're more than just fairly similar, but again, I'll get into that later in this video. Next up, I want to talk about the acting, but not from Scarlett Johansson, sadly. I want to talk about Florence Pugh and David Harbour. Those two actors and actresses were phenomenal in this movie. They definitely stole the show from literally everyone else. I don't even think Taskmaster's actress or actor was nearly as good as Florence Pugh and David Harbour. Overall, Florence Pugh as Yelena, she's already one of my more favorite MCU characters. She's already one of my most hype anticipated characters to see what happens to her in the future of the MCU. I'm honestly in love with her character. From the moment that she was on the screen, her backstory, the way they explained everything was just so well done with her character, and that's why I really love her. And also David Harbour, absolutely phenomenal as the Red Guardian. I really hope we get to see him more on screen. I honestly hope we get a Yelena movie, like a solo movie, the way that Black Widow got one, but I hope it's actually in time before she moves on from the MCU, whatever happens to her character. I hope it's just on time. This movie, one of the biggest issues is that it's not on time. It feels like it should have been made a long time ago, and that's one of the flaws of it, but I'll get into that later. I think this movie had so much potential. They really messed up in some parts of the second act and third act, because the first act set this movie up for awesome things, but it feels like they went the James Bond route by giving us all of the massive action and set pieces in the first act. And then the second and third acts really didn't live up to the first act for me. And I'm gonna be honest, the best thing about this movie, other than like the actual like content of it, is definitely the cinematography and cinematics, like the visuals. They were so well done. I'm not talking like CGI and like visual shots, like the way the camera focused in on people. It literally felt like Zack Snyder directed this movie, and that's a good thing in my opinion. Like, it looked like the Army of the Dead's like focus zones and all that kind of stuff. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If I'm getting too in the details, I apologize about that. But the cinematography in this movie was absolutely beautiful, especially in the first act. Overall, I did like this movie. I'm not gonna say it's anything crazy, and the reason I didn't like it is, well, let's talk about the bad now. So probably the worst thing in this movie was the pacing. Like I said before, Act 1 of this movie was absolutely awesome. There was so much action, but the only problem with the action, and like I mentioned before, there's so much action, but the action didn't necessarily work in favor of the story, because the action didn't have any storytelling within it. For example, and obviously people are going to hate me, they're going to be like, oh, why do you compare this movie to Winter Soldier? Is because this movie is exactly like Winter Soldier. The third act, practically identical, and I'll go into that in my spoiler review. So when that spoiler review is posted, check the comments down below so you know whenever I upload that. But I do think that this movie went way too Winter Soldier route, but they didn't take the most important thing from Winter Soldier, which was having storytelling within the action. And we can see that in the highway fight scene between that first actual fight between the Winter Soldier and Captain America, where the Winter Soldier's mask comes off and Captain America's like, Bucky? And that's when that whole entire movie takes a twist, because we learn that it's actually Bucky, and we learn that Captain America knows that it's now Bucky. In this movie, there were no super crazy action sequences where they made us like super mind boggled and all that kind of stuff. It was just basic action sequences when it came to the storytelling side of things. Visually, they were stunning. Surprise factor off the charts. there was no storytelling within these action sequences, so they really felt weightless in the grand scheme of things. Not gonna lie, in the moment, this stuff was like Mission Impossible, Jason Bourne, James Bond level stuff. But when you think of it in the grand scheme of things, there was no story being told. Now, the final bad thing I want to talk about, and I hate to say this, is Scarlett Johansson in this movie. It didn't feel like an authentic Black Widow, and we've always seen Black Widow on the side, and I think it's well done. I think that was a good choice because I really don't think that character can lead her own movie. Maybe it's because they were setting up Florence Pugh's Yelena so much, but overall, I just don't think Scarlett Johansson can carry this movie with that character. And I'm not talking down on Scarlett Johansson because I love her in Marriage Story. I love her in so many other projects like Jojo Rabbit, but she just can't carry this movie as the character of Black Widow, and that's what I was scared of because we know in all of the other Avengers movies and like Iron Man 2 and Captain America Winter Soldier, she's just a side character. She really has no main importance. She has importance, but she could easily be replaced by someone, let's be honest. So overall, I don't think that Scarlett Johansson was able to carry this movie, and that's not necessarily a bad thing if you look at it in the big scale because it set up Yelena a lot, but I went there to watch a Black Widow movie. It didn't feel like a Black Widow movie. I had no emotion, I had no care for the character, and I just didn't care that her character was there. I was more focused on Yelena and Red Guardian and other characters, so I just didn't really care. And talking about Taskmaster, I don't think they did the best job with that character. I feel like they could have made that character way better. There's so much potential with that kind of character, but I feel like I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it, but the identity reveal of the character wasn't as bad as I thought it would be because the critics made it seem, maybe it's because the critics said it was so bad that my expectation for it to be that bad was so high, but it just ended up not being as bad as I thought, so I'm kind of considering it good. I wouldn't by any means say it's like a phenomenal reveal or anything like that. It definitely felt anticlimactic. It definitely didn't feel like it was in the right place in the movie, but I digress. Overall, this movie was honestly all right, but my final take for this movie is that it's a fun movie. It's a great summer action blockbuster. I enjoyed myself. I wouldn't say it's the best movie. I think it's a mid-tier MCU movie. I don't think it's anything bad. I think it's miles ahead of Captain Marvel, and if we had gotten this movie during the time that Captain Marvel came out and it was still a prequel and we didn't know that Black Widow had already died in Endgame, this movie would have had a million times more impact. But overall, I did enjoy myself during this movie. My overall score for this movie is going to be a 7.5 out of 10. So now to announce the winner of the Black Widow giveaway. The giveaway winner is Duke Luke. Please hit me up on Instagram. You can check my Instagram in the description down below, and I'll get your shipping address and I'll make sure this Funko Pop gets to you. I'll be hosting another Funko Pop giveaway around December when Spider-Man No Way Home releases, so stay around on the channel for that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.